everyone. Thank you for visiting our session. Here we would like to introduce resilient supply chain, which is one of the themes that Fujitsu emphasizes in sustainable manufacturing under the title of Resilient Supply Chain, which does not stop even in unpredictable events. In the midst of sudden occurrence of unpredictable events such as COVID-19 and disasters, even manufacturing companies are required to have resilience, which is the ability to quickly and autonomously restore service after these events occur. Under these circumstances, Eiji Furukawa, Vice Head of Asian Region Fujitsu Limited, will talk about how Fujitsu has worked its way in realizing resilient supply chain and what kind of initiatives Fujitsu has planned for the future. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Furukawa.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Eiji Furukawa, and Vice Head of Asia Region at Fujitsu. Thank you so much for joining this session. First, I would like to talk a little bit about environment surrounding manufacturing, especially the supply chain. In recent years, the Great East Earthquake and the Kumamoto earthquake in Japan, as well as the flood in other parts of the world, like Thailand, are still fresh in our memories. However, earthquakes, torrential rains, typhoons, and other natural disasters of unprecedented level, including COVID-19, have continuously been occurring in Japan and globally. This has made it impossible for companies to continue their business without unexpected interruptions. In addition to disasters and pandemics, the international situation surrounding economic security has changed significantly. Political conflicts, such as the confrontations between the United States and China, have intensified. In order to build a resilient supply chain, 3 actions are needed, and they must be taken step by step. First is to understand fully the supply chain or supply network. For the company, you need to be able to holistically visualize the supply chain over the wide range and scope. That includes not only primary suppliers, but also your secondary suppliers. Second is the restructuring of the supply chain model. In the case of procuring resources and parts from high-risk procurement channels, we consider measures such as decentralized procurement by matching information on disaster risks such as hazard maps to information connected to the company's supply chain. In addition, it is necessary to establish a backup system during normal times by conducting a survey on alternative production sites. Finally, we create a system that enables quick decision-making in the event of an emergency. It is extremely important to organically link various types of data, such as customers, suppliers, IoT, and internal systems to make decisions quickly in an emergency. Our aim is to minimize the impact of emergencies and achieve autonomous and flexible supply chains. How does Fujitsu contribute to such a world view? I will introduce Fujitsu's direction on the next slide. These are Fujitsu's goals for this theme. As mentioned earlier, we aim to build a resilient supply chain that can respond flexibly to any possible risks caused by natural disasters, pandemics, and political turmoil that have never experienced before. Specifically, by linking with the latest data, including external data sources such as weather, geography, disaster, and legal information in the event of unforeseen circumstances. The customer will be able to identify the impact of the disaster through the estimated damage in supplier's supply chain. This also helps with the prediction of recovery timelines. We support calibrating production management and responses to suppliers by giving recommendations through analyzing the affected areas. We summarize the damage situation in timely manner and conducting simulations based on the alternatives that our customers might face in the event of an emergency. As a partner in driving digital transformation for our customers, we are proud to introduce these three strengths, we will build a flexible supply chain in this era of uncertainty and strongly support our customers' business continuity. First, we will support advanced impact prediction in the event of disaster by expanding the application area of exascale computer that we run through the world's #1 supercomputer, Fugaku, and hardware technology and integrating it with AI technology. Second, we will provide an infrastructure that can be used for business operations with security and blockchain technology to distribute data in a safe and secure manner. Finally, we support our customers' operations with supply chain risk management expertise that has already been proven by customers in various industries. We will transform supply chain operations to enable rapid decision-making.
Thank you, Mr. Furukawa. To aim for manufacturing that does not stop at unpredictable events, resilient supply chain is the key. Fujitsu's efforts so far and the direction for the future are wonderful. Looking forward to this in the future. Next, I would like to hear from Mr. Takeshi Okuma, President and CEO of Fujitsu Client Computing Limited, which is working proactively to realize resilient supply chain.
Hi, I'm Takeshi Okuma of Fujitsu Client Computing Limited. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk at Fujitsu Activate Now as a related company named after Fujitsu. Our company was established as a subsidiary of Fujitsu in 2016 and started as a joint venture between Lenovo and Fujitsu in 2018. We have 1,900 people based in Kawasaki, Shimane, Germany, Taiwan, and ship about 4 million units of PC and other client computing devices every year. Now, we live in the era of VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That means the future of any industry is uncertain, and no one can prepare it perfectly. In our industry, unexpected situations such as COVID-19 and subsequent semiconductor supply shortage are putting significant business pressure one after another. Today, I would like to introduce our efforts in the resilient supply chain domain. To summarize our supply chain initiatives, I would say we have the following three stages: local BCM, global network, and end-to-end flexibility. First stage is local BCM. Since we are still a division of Fujitsu, we have been working to ensure business continuity in case of emergency. We call it Business Continuity Management, BCM. Specifically, we were preparing for the consideration of alternative site manufacturing. We worked together with multiple internal manufacturing sites to improve our readiness for manufacturing disruptions. Thanks to this effort, in the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011, we were able to transfer production from Fukushima to Shimane in 12 days after the disaster, minimizing the impact on product supply. By learning from that experience, we have evolved BCM by revising the production manual and conducting trial manufacturing. Second stage is global network. After forming a joint venture with Lenovo, our supply chain options have expanded significantly, as Lenovo has more than 10 times bigger global operations than FCCL alone. In addition to our development and production sites in Shimane, Germany, and Taiwan, we have been able to access Lenovo's global network. In addition, we are now able to utilize ODM, EMS, and suppliers together with Lenovo. As a result, we can produce products close to the end user markets. With that, we can optimize parts and inventory management. Now, we are working to continue to change the optimal supply chain network dynamically while looking at the changing supply-demand situation. The last stage is end-to-end flexibility. It's impossible to look ahead in uncertain times, so how much mobility and flexibility you have is key. For example, because of the recent lockdown in Vietnam, manufacturing at one of our suppliers' factories was suddenly and completely suspended. To respond to that, we tried to find alternative factories and alternative suppliers, and we rushed to qualify alternative components by working with both development team and sales team. This can only be done when we work with not only our own supply chain team, but also entire organization and external partners such as suppliers and ODMs. Typically, we evaluate QCD in supplier selection, quality, cost, and delivery. But now, it is necessary to evaluate suppliers from the BCM perspective as well. In fact, the BCP development rate of our suppliers has increased from 57% in 2011 to 78% over 5 years and ever increasing. However, to ensure end-to-end flexibility in cooperation with external companies, it is necessary to make efforts in multiple dimensions. For example, ensure compatibility of production management systems, securely exchange confidential information in the event of emergency. I think that digital transformation by solution providers will be critical to support these efforts. So, I would like to look forward to Fujitsu's initiative in supporting manufacturing companies like us.
Thank you, Mr. Okuma. Next, I would like to hear from Ms. Yolanda Cui, co-founder of TextTracer, and Mr. Frederick Bruac from Fujitsu Belgium. Ms. Cui is working proactively to achieve resilient supply chain.
Here with me, I have Frederick de Broek from Fujitsu and Yolanda Coy from TextTracer, who are engaged in activities with a view to the future, as we believe that even the unpredictable events that Fujitsu envisions will not stop strength and business continuity in the supply chain. Well, Frederick, we start with you. How can blockchain create more resilient supply chains in the post-COVID recovery?
Well, global and local supply chains were clearly and in many instances immediately impacted by the pandemic, with direct consequences for the markets all around the world. So this actually highlighted for us the critical gaps in supply chains, and gaps that actually already existed, but they were not expected to surface with such a velocity. And if you look at the overall growing complexity of supply chain, the need from just in time to just in case, which has been highlighted by COVID, it has exposed their vulnerability to disruption. So looking at the economic fabric, it has expressed a kind of a real stress test for the economic fabric and the supply chain overall. And a lot of the, let's say, advisors like the Gartner's, IDCs of this world, they call that business resilience. And it's a common term we often use in conversations with customers. Now, that being said, there is a lot of other problems that are related to supply chains that have caused significant issues. And for us, one of the things that jumps really out is transparency and visibility, because that's something that companies and consumers are expecting. And this need for trust and be able to trust the data has become important in the overall collaboration, because if you look at the economic way of doing things now and the economic fabric, ecosystems and ecosystem of a company are actually the new keywords. They are of vital importance on how people want to collaborate. And this requires sharing of data to improve the supply chain visibility. And one of the technologies we use for that, next to, of course, analytics and artificial intelligence, is enterprise blockchain solutions, where we allow to create and help create an ecosystem that forces or enables all the companies to, in a transaction, to see the same data at the same time in a transparent, traceable, and at the same time secure factor. So transparency, traceability, immutability, and security are really attributes that generate that more reliable, responsive, and actually, in the end, resilient supply chain.
What have you learned, Yolanda, in the last 18 months during the pandemic, and what impact on sustainability has that had? And how do you see the next 18 months?
Well, initially, the pandemic caused great havoc in the fashion industry. So we saw fewer companies focusing on sustainability. It was quite a scary one for us. But it's exactly as Frederick just explained, it has, after that initial phase, actually created an even bigger focus on sustainability. Now, that focus on sustainability by consumers is also accelerated with rules and regulations that are coming into place in the next 18 months, since you're asking exactly, like actually the extended producer responsibility will be put in place and come into force in the European Union. So it will make also supply chain insight no longer a nice to have, but a must have.
Now, the fashion industry has faced criticism over how its supply chains operate, and although they may want more transparency, brand owners and retailers have never had an effective way to achieve that. Do you agree with this, Yolanda?
Oh, absolutely. Unfortunately, I think the fashion industry, probably we all know, is one of the largest or biggest polluters and a very opaque supply chain and an industry, and that's making it really hard to actually let all the supply chain partners work with each other and to be transparent. I know a lot of brands and retailers that would say, "Oh yeah," being asked, "Do you know your supply chain? Are you transparent?" They say, "Yes, absolutely. I visit them every year or twice yearly." But then, even that is not possible at this stage because of COVID. But also, in most cases, brands and retailers are then only talking about tier 1 and possibly tier 2. And what does that mean when that's basically your first point of contact, like the confectioning factory, and then possibly a fabric mill? But there are so many more steps involved. And that's where we said, okay, really, we need to make that change by letting all the involved parties actually work in a platform together to create that true transparency.
And how has blockchain helped you achieve this?
Well, it's a very big part of it, because basically we said, okay, we don't want to just get data. We actually started with just collecting data through email and Excel, but we realized that by doing that, it just remains data, which can be changed. And that's where we said, okay, let blockchain be that part that really helps us to create verified data and make it immutable. So it's a very important part for us. And making it immutable, we combine actually blockchain with time and geolocation stamps, which can be defined in blockchain as well. And then actually we have interaction between one and the other step, uploading proof, basically asking this next steps to confirm or approve the previously uploaded data. And all that information is stored in the blockchain, making it an immutable set of verified data, based on which our brands and retailers actually get verified supply chain insight, and this enables them to make educated decisions, and educated decisions that are in most cases, decisions that make their company or their product more sustainable.
Frederick, can you tell us more about the project developed with TextTracer and what the real impact blockchain has had and is having on ensuring resilience in supply chain?
Yes, and next to what Yolanda just explained, it is, and maybe I'm inventing a new word here, is evidenced purpose, that we actually can prove what has happened, who has accessed the data, who has uploaded the data. And as Yolanda correctly said, we are timestamping geolocation, we're storing it on the blockchain. We're also adding documents, and we don't store the documents on the blockchain because that's not efficient. We store the fingerprint of the document, so we can always go back and verify that unique fingerprint, and we can see if one bit has changed actually on the document. So, and next to all of this data, and Yolanda is right, it's not about the data, because data in itself, if you look at from our perspective, from a technology perspective, is almost useless. It's the insight that matters. That's what we really want to help build, those resilient blockchains and resilient supply chains. So our method also allows us to look at that business angle and actually remove a number of operational friction points. And that removal of friction points, of course, allows us to do future optimizations. And two elements I wanted to add is that not only are we helping the end consumer that to check the garment, and with the QR code they can scan and they can see actually the whole trip that is, and then we will look at all the steps and we will say this one is verified, this one is verification in progress, but it also allows brands and retailers to look at that captured data, that captured insight, and give that auditable information actually to their CSR team, to their sustainability team, to the compliance team, but also to the procurement people, where they can look at, do I have an operational friction point? And I believe Yolanda and Bart and the team, we are always looking at what can we do next, and will we integrate, for example, invoicing and payments? Okay, fine, let's discuss how we can build that in. And this kind of that interactive co-creation mode, I think, which makes this project successful, actually.
Yolanda, can you explain what the main business challenges are for TextTracer, how you overcome them, and would you share your vision for the future?
Well, absolutely. Thank you. But first of all, regarding the main business challenges, I know that we've built a great platform, or if I may say so, we've built a great platform with Fujitsu, or actually they created it, but we thought it out together. And so that is not the problem. The platform is great. Having said that, the challenge that we do have is that tech should work for people and not the other way around. So it's very much about making sure that users really have a good user journey. And so we continuously work on improving the customer and user journey in the platform, and continuously starting new sprints, as we like to call it, to add improved functionality for those users. And this is where we also have a team here, which is, almost 24/7, a day in, day out, in contact with supply chain partners, users in the system, to get them onboarded and get them to understand why we are doing this. Because we know that the tech is right, but at the same time, we need to make them understand why they should be using it and why this is so important. And then in terms of the future, basically we say we are looking for a transparent fashion ecosystem. Frederick talked about the ecosystem before. It is no longer all about me, or creating the best value for your company only. It's really about the whole supply chain, involving each and every step in the supply chain, and making sure that, there's a piece of pie for everyone. One smaller, one bigger can be, but let's make sure that they're all involved. And only by doing that, we can actually really come to a more circular business model, which is in the end a very important part for all businesses. The EU has set a directive that in 2050 we want to be circular, so that's where also this kind of project is helping. And blockchain is one of the enablers to make this a successful project and platform.
So lots of solid and practical advice for us all there. Thank you, Yolanda and Frederick.
Thank you, Ms. Cooey and Mr. Bruac. I felt Ms. Cooey's efforts were really wonderful. Finally, I would like to introduce a customer approach for the realization of resilient supply chain with Fujitsu. In the manufacturing industry, if an emergency, such as a disaster, happens, it is necessary to immediately confirm the impact of the disaster to the business partners and consider alternative measures. Company A has introduced Supply Chain Risk Management Service SCR Keeper, which is Fujitsu's product, and is considering quick recovery measures such as the procurement of substitutes after seizing and understanding the damaged situation of business partners and risks of each item. The goal is to build a resilient supply chain together with Fujitsu by using this information to evaluate and analyze the business continuity for our business partners, even beyond the immediate impact of the emergency, and to manage risks that might exist further in the supply chain. Our aim is to design the supply chain that is resistant to changes and fluctuations in the future. I hope that the approach I have introduced today will give you a hint when you tackle resilient supply chain. Fujitsu will continue to work with customers to realize sustainable manufacturing. This concludes the session. Thank you for attending today's session. We hope you found the content to be useful and engaging. Please click the link on the screen to answer a brief survey and ask any questions you may have. We appreciate your feedback.